This is the Mecha Comet. It's a pocketable, portable mini Linux machine that's made for people that want to tinker and just mod with things. The whole software is just Debian, so you can put whatever you want on it, add widgets, make it run emulators, whatever. In terms of specs, it's powered by a 1.8 gigahertz processor, 4 gigs of RAM, Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, 32 gigs of flash storage, and it has lots of different ports to tinker with too. USB-C, a couple USB-A ports, a gigabit Ethernet jack, even a tiny little M2 slot in the back here. This whole thing is designed to be taken apart, repaired. The whole thing uses hex screws, which, look at this, how cute is that? The hex wrench you need is actually built into the device. That's so cool. And it has these magnetic pins that their OS detects exactly like USB devices, so the idea is that you can plug in whatever you want. They had a few concepts that I saw up there, the most fun one being the game controller for sure. I'm sure that'll be really fun to put RetroArch or something on this thing. We got the keyboard if you want to program something straight from the device, and this one, which is just straight up a breakout board, so you can plug in whatever you want, which means this can open things up to stuff like Pi boards. And if you want to make your own, they have open source schematics that you can follow to design whatever accessory that you want. The guy that was next to me was thinking about how this would make a sick portable NAS. I was thinking about what if they made a click wheel board so we can have like a really sick internet connected music player. I got to meet the actual creator at the booth. I got to chat with him a little bit. He just seemed genuinely really excited about this thing. He talks exactly how I talk when I get really into explaining like a brand new project that I'm working on. He's just another nerd like me. They're launching a Kickstarter soon and they plan to release this at 159. I really want this thing. And that's kind of the whole idea for this video. I got to go to CES for the first time ever this year and it was a lot. There is so much stuff to see there. There's no way I'd be able to show you all of it. So here's just some of the stuff that I actually left and said, actually, yeah, I think I'd want to buy that. Atari made another handheld, kinda. I checked out the My Arcade booth. These are the guys who make those tiny little retro cabinets that you see everywhere. Well, they partnered up with Atari to make the Gamestation Go, designed to have all the classic Atari type games, except for the Lynx, which is weird considering that that was literally their only other handheld that they've ever released. But they do have other games aside from their console stuff. Like they showed me that they have Pac-Man with all the cool special game modes that everyone likes. In terms of specs, we got a 720p display in the front, USB-C charging, and an HDMI port that can output to 1080p, so they definitely want you using this on a TV with multiplayer. There's also Wi-Fi in this one, so in the future they're planning to add like free complimentary updates, whatever that may mean. Maybe we'll get to see more games or features in the future. I don't know, we'll see. And a micro SD card slot, which I don't know, maybe we can add in our own games or something. Maybe this will open it up to something cool. And they seem to have really thought out the controls as well. I thought this was the joystick. Nope, this is actually just a paddle dial, kind of like for games like Pong or Breakout. They have a trackball for games that would need that, like Centipede. And they even have like a whole ass number pad just for Atari 5200 games. I never played Atari 5200 games, so I don't know what games this would be useful for, but the option is certainly there. Even better, they have something called Smart Glow, which is cool because not a lot of younger people might have played these games like me, so they don't know what buttons or controls to use, but they have LED lights under all of them, so they'll light up depending on which game or console that you're playing. The guy told me they're planning to release this around August for 150 bucks. I would love to see if there's like a way we can import our own rips of games to it, or even better, properly buy packs from the store so we can have them legitimately. The only real complaint I have, honestly, is the glass is really reflective because I think this is made out of the same plastic that the front screen of the Nintendo Switch has, but that's kind of expected for a price point like this. It's a really cheap device, what can you do? But yeah, this one really caught my eye and I would love to see what would be possible with that SD card slot. The hardware on this at least really did impress me. XREAL invited me to come check out their booth and they had a lot of crazy stuff they were showing off here, including these comically large glasses. In case you've never heard of them, they make AR glasses that are designed to show off all of your content, whether it's your Switch or your phone or your MacBook, whatever. All of it just works seamlessly, and it makes it feel like you have a 100-inch theater screen right in front of you. It feels really cool. And I actually saw a lot of press and media people using them when I was there at CES, so that was really interesting to see. XREAL was also cool enough to cover my travel expenses for CES, and they sponsored the part of this video, so big thanks to them for that. They had a lot of cool demos on display, like their Ultra Air 2s that just straight up have 2 camera sensors on them now, so you can do proper AR with hand tracking and everything. But what I thought was really cool were the mid-range model that they were showing off. The XREAL One Pro, which has just gotten a ton of new upgrades that make this thing much more pleasant to use. The actual eyepiece components got thinner, like way thinner. The FOV got wider. the screens got brighter, and the best part in my opinion is that these now have processing chips in them for stuff like spatial processing. I tested their older models like a year ago, and if you wanted to have proper anchor tracking for your games and movies, like you move your head over here and then the screen still stays here, you move your head over here, the screen still stays over here, you would need to carry around something that's called the XREAL Beam, which would do all the hardware processing to track where the screen was in like AR space. So it'd be one cable to whatever device you wanted to hook up, like your phone or whatever, and then another cable to the actual glasses themselves. It was a really bulky solution. It really felt like it was like a half measure, really. Well, there's no need for this thing anymore because now the glasses can just do all the spatial tracking in the glasses by themselves, all built in without any extra hardware. I really like this. Oh yeah, and if you wanted to black out your entire vision, they used to include this like little plastic cover that would just clip onto your glasses to block out the light from outside. Now the glasses can auto dim themselves, so you can do regular clear mode, shade mode, which is like a little bit dim, and then theater mode, which completely blacks out everything in your vision. Man, tech even like a year ago feels so much more prehistoric compared to now. They had a few examples of how you would use this. So they had like a Switch and a Steam Deck setup that you would just plug right into the glasses so you can play your games on a mega huge screen. I also plugged in my own phone where I had like a movie downloaded and I plugged into the glasses, and sure enough, yep, it looked really, really good. And they both had a mini PC and a Mac Mini just directly hooked up to the glasses, where they had an ultra wide setup that looked really, really cool, especially since the text looks much sharper now. By the way, even though they might have sponsored this video because I know someone at XREAL is going to be watching this, listen, you guys have to work on these naming schemes. I think trying to explain the product models and like what each one does essentially is really confusing to normies. Something really simple like maybe XREAL Core for the basic model, XREAL Plus for the mid-range one, and XREAL Max for the super high-end fancy stuff. Because I kept hearing over and over in the booth of people talking like, what's the difference between the XREAL One Pro and the Air 2 Ultra? Which is kind of a big deal. And some people thought it was all the same pair of glasses for every demo. You guys really got to figure that out. And it's a real bummer because like I said, the technology in these glasses are really, really cool, but if people don't know what they should be buying, it's going to be really confusing for them to actually make a decision. The One Pros are going to be releasing in March for $599. I feel like there's enough improvements that address pretty much every one of my complaints with the older models that I tested before. Like these are finally starting to get to a point where I can say they're going from like, oh, they're pretty good to like, wow, these are really, really great. Quick water and snack break in between everything because all the different stuff was a little overwhelming. And if you were wondering what my handheld of choice was for this trip, well, it was actually my modded 3DS XL, of course. I wanted to finally dig a bit more into the levels in Super Mario 3D Land since I played the first two over and over again so much for testing purposes. Okay, quick question. I know a lot of people complain about battery life on their phone, so ideally, how long would you want your phone to last on a charge? 12 hours? A day? 2 days? Okay, what about 2 weeks without charging it? Yeah, these phones are ridiculous. I came across this booth from a company called Ulephone, where their whole hook is just insanely durable phones. Like, you know how you always hear companies always saying like, oh, our phone is now 15% more durable than last year's. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you could use this thing as a football and it would still be fine. Toss the thing into a wood chipper and I'm pretty sure you'd need a new wood chipper. Like they had a few on display in just absolutely ridiculous situations, and they had a bunch installed onto the floor that were just begging to be stepped on, honestly, same. And the funny thing is that none of them actually have any compromises other than just their giant mega size. They still have all the usual OLED displays, 16 gigs of RAM, 5G, 120 Hz display, 120 watt fast charging, and of course the ridiculous battery life on these things. Their flagship model, the Armor 29 Pro, has a 21,000 milliamp battery, which will last you a solid 2 weeks without any charging. The cameras are also ridiculous. I mean, it feels like they just said yes to everything. The main camera can do 64 megapixels with a 1-inch sensor, which the photography guys know that is actually like a pretty big deal. And it has sensors on the back to do night vision and thermal, like proper real thermal, not just like a fake filter or anything. The back of this thing also just has a bunch of other ridiculous things.
Display. You can see it's really smooth and it's AMOLED display. You can even take a selfie with your main camera.
Can we see?
Yeah.
Ah, that's so cool. Look at that.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And almost the entire back of this phone is just for the flashlight. Like, I'm pretty sure they want you to use this as a camping light. It got just ridiculously bright. You want police lights to scare off thieves and stuff? Don't worry, they got you too. And if that doesn't work, I'm pretty sure you can just use this thing as a weapon if you throw it hard enough. They also showed me a smaller model they had that still has like 80% of the stuff the other one does. It felt the same size as like an iPhone SE, but what's funny is that the SE's biggest problem actually is battery life. Battery life is still a little smaller though, 6,000 milliamps, but the guy said that it'll still last you minimum of 3 to 5 days without having to charge it. These things are super mega overkill, and I was thinking to myself like, who needs these? Who was their target demographic for a phone that needs to be this durable and this high end? Well, the guy was explaining to me that their demographic for this is actually usually construction people, outdoorsy people, people like electricians and plumbers can actually use things like the thermal camera to find leaks or live wires somewhere. Wilderness people can use a long battery life and SOS lights in case something happens and they don't want to worry about being stuck outside without a connection to the outside world, stuff like that. I'd say I buy one of these because they're not crazy expensive. I know the small phone is like $369, but also I think it'd be really fun to do a video on these things and play something really stupid with it, like play baseball with it or something. I don't know. Let me think of some cool ideas of what I can do with this thing. I think it'd be super cool to have a completely overkill phone. Okay, so I'm going to show you two products that try to tackle the same problem in two different ways. I'm curious to see which one does it better because I can honestly see the arguments for both. So this is an entire PC. Now really, this little thing, just barely bigger than my phone, is a fully functional PC. It's rocking an Intel Ultra 5 processor, 16 gigs of RAM, and a 1/2 terabyte SSD with an optional M2 slot in the back so you can add more. This is the Khadas Mind 2, which is actually the second gen of this type of design. They're just refreshing it for CES. Yeah, I know you probably already see mini PCs everywhere at this point, but what really caught my eye with this one is that this is a mini PC with a battery, which means that it's meant to be moved around different setups and hooked up to docks that live on your desk. At their CES demo, they showed off how this whole system works. The docks use magnets to click right into place, powering your entire setup, monitor, mouse, keyboard, charging. The dock itself is pretty solid too. It's got built-in speakers, a volume knob, a fingerprint reader, and when you're done, you just pick it up and head out. They even have a special dock that has a GPU in it. Yeah, this one has a 4060 in it that can do proper gaming on it, which is really, really sweet. Oh, and don't worry, I have some criticisms on this setup for sure. And they had a little netbook-based device that the Mind 2 could dock into that works basically like a laptop. Okay, so I know everyone is thinking it. This just sounds like a laptop with extra steps. If you're gonna be carrying this thing everywhere anyways, and it has a battery and it has a dock for different setups, who's the target demographic for this that wouldn't just prefer carrying a laptop? Me! It's me! I'm the prime demographic for this. Dude, this is exactly how I use my MacBook right now. I hate having projects on multiple machines, so I just have my one MacBook hooked up to a Thunderbolt dock on my desk. It has my mouse, keyboard, SSDs, monitors, mic interface, all that stuff. One cable plugs everything in, and when I have to go somewhere else, I just unplug it and just hook it all up to another Thunderbolt dock. It's seamless, and it's actually how I've always worked. I also hate carrying around my laptop, even if it's my MacBook, because most of the time, wherever I'm traveling to probably already has a monitor, mouse, and keyboard anyways. So to me, it's like, why bother even lugging around that extra stuff that I don't need? This big old thing compared to, you know, that tiny thing. Plus, I like my setup specifically because of the battery power. If something happens, like the power goes out, I'm not screwed because the MacBook is obviously still running. I've actually been in exact situations like this where I was editing under a super tight deadline and the power suddenly goes out and oh, everything's still fine because my MacBook is still running off of the battery. Same concept here. If something happens, you're not completely boned. For people like me, this is a way better solution, but I wouldn't say it cheaper, which is where the big issue lies for me, honestly, is the price. $799 for the base model, which, okay, I think at this price, most people are already considering some laptops for sure. Not me, but definitely some people. The dock is $150. I have one similar from CalDigit, and that thing was like $300. Some people apparently tend to buy 2 or 3 because they already know they're going to be using this in multiple locations. And the GPU dock with the 4060 is $999. You kind of lost me there. Paying $1,000 for a 4060 is starting to feel a little ridiculous. I get it. R&D for equipment like this is expensive, but I don't know, man. All told, to get a decent setup, you're looking at a minimum of like $1,800, which, oh look, we're back to MacBook prices again. Dang it. And also, obviously, this is just common nature with these sorts of devices, but there's no upgradability at all other than the SSD slot. It's kind of a bummer. I think if at least the docks had some sort of ways to be upgraded, that'd be a really cool compromise. But other than that, I love the idea of this machine. I think they're able to work on that pricing a bit. I'd definitely be in the target audience for something like this. MSI invited me out to their show floor, which was honestly really exciting. Dude, I had like crazy imposter syndrome the whole time. Like it was ridiculous. They had all kinds of cool laptops and the new 5090 GPUs on display. And oh my God, check this thing out. They called it the Meg. Pure excess coming from this thing. I think it's been like a solid 10 years since it's seen a machine with 3 GPUs inside. 2 4090s, a 4070 Ti, bunch of gold fans, 8 USB ports, dual embedded displays, and an absolutely gorgeous water cooling loop. I mean, they were really just flexing what they can do here. I think the inside of this thing is bigger than my LA apartment, honestly. Anyways, what I really wanted to go check out was their new MSI Claw 8 AI Plus. This is a 2nd-gen version of the Claw, and it feels like they made some big improvements over the 1st generation. Now, some context for you guys who weren't following this handheld. The 1st gen dropped last year, and it was not good. A lot of people reviewed it very poorly, putting it nicely. The gist of it being that because this ran Intel, a lot of games just didn't run smoothly. It was really weird. Now, what I found interesting was that the rep that was guiding me through all of this stuff was very open and upfront about the original Claw's issues. Yeah, he outright admitted to me, like, yeah, we messed up. We thought we had it right, but we got flamed for it. But we learned from our mistakes, and we're really, really happy with this one. So they managed to make it run way more efficient. They told me when compared to an ROG Ally, in games, they're doing slightly better FPS for half of the power draw. So 30 watts compared to 17 watts on the Claw, which means much better battery life. It gets less hot. It's overall a really notable improvement. They also showed me this crazy software that they made. You hold up your hands to it, and it measures the length of your fingers and your knuckles. And they use this to average out the best ideal hand fit and use that to make their ergonomics for the Claw. It's kind of neat. They also had this entire setup as a PC workstation. Because it just runs normal Windows 11, they want people to use this as a portable PC with a battery to use things like video editing, Photoshop, stuff like that. Wait, that sounds familiar. Yeah, this is the same issue that the Khadas PC or the Khadas PC is trying to solve. A portable PC with battery that is smaller than a laptop that can be hooked up to docks and play games on it. So imagine my surprise when I found out this thing is $900. It can still play games, dock, has a battery, and people still think it's too expensive. See, okay, wait. Now I'm confused. As a portable Windows PC with a screen and a battery that can also play games, that sounds great. And listen, if you want to go buy a $600 gaming laptop and call it a day, that's totally fine. In fact, I know MSI already offers some pretty cool budget options around that price. That is not their target demographic for things like this. But if people are asking for smaller, lighter, more portable devices, it's just so strange to me to see when companies go out and do exactly that, and everyone's just like, wait, not like that. So yeah, if you're not the target audience for this, I can get why it doesn't really make sense. But I see solutions like this and I think, man, this is exactly what I've been looking for. A tiny portable PC that I can take with me, that's battery powered and dockable and takes less space than a bulky gaming laptop. I'm just hopeful that companies keep trying to push things like this, because if we keep going in this direction, we can honestly see some really exciting things down the line. I don't know. Given the fact that I'm starting to already max out what I want to do and play with my Steam Deck, I'm starting to already look for my next handheld, and I would probably buy this. Ugreen asked me to stop by their booth. They also sponsored the trip and this video. You might know them from the super handy chargers and battery banks and stuff. Well, now they're trying out their hand at NAS systems, which are basically like your own personal mini cloud at home, but could still be accessed from anywhere else in the world. They just announced their new IDX line of NASs, which can hold up to 160 terabytes of storage for any of your movies or photos, or in my case, I use these for all my video files since these 4K files can stack up pretty fast. And one of the big selling points they were showing off were the new AI features. The IDX systems come equipped with an AI LLM, which, hold on, is actually pretty useful. These NASs can search up your files and create summaries for documents, search up specific things or people in your pictures, and most importantly, all of these tools can be run offline, so you don't need to be connected to the internet to use them. It's all local. If you've been wanting to get into your own network storage setup, it's never been a better time to try these out. Check out the Ugreen NAS, the link in the description. They're doing a pretty cool discount for CES. Use my link and get $225 off of any of their NASs. How cool is that? And again, big thanks to Ugreen for getting me out here to CES in the first place and for sponsoring this segment of the video. And finally, here's one of the products that I was the most excited for. Now, I did a video about the Xperia Play, which was PlayStation's first attempt at making like a proper PlayStation branded gaming phone all the way back in 2011. It had an awesome slide-up controller that you can play all your games with. I love this thing. And after you're done with this video, I really think you should go check it out. It was a beautiful device. We made it run games and emulators and everything. It's super, super cool. And in the comments, I noticed just how many people miss this layout. And the children, they yearn for a phone handheld with real physical controls, especially now that emulators on iOS are starting to become way more popular again. Well, wait no more. This is the MCON Controller, and it promises to deliver on that exact experience, but modernized for your newer phones. So, does it live up to my expectations? So this controller is in collaboration with a company called OSnap that are known for making phone accessory stuff, and Josh, who's a 20-year-old kid who came up with this idea in his bedroom, 3D printed some prototypes, and now here we are. And I find that really impressive doing that at this age. Like, damn, dude, you were just a teenager. We were supposed to meet to shoot some stuff on his controller, like have like a whole interview and ask him a few questions about it. And unfortunately, he got sick, which kills me honestly, because it feels like literally every other creator I know got some decent time asking questions and giving feedback. And I didn't get a chance to do that. But I totally understand, things happen, and I know that there was a lot of people sniffling on the show floor. So let's just consider this video my spot for feedback on the controller. So the whole thing is supposed to work with a snap connector you put on the back of your phone, and it clicks on with some magnets. You can connect through Bluetooth, but they do have a wired option if you prefer that. Just press 2 buttons on the back, and then just...
There you go. Beautiful.
This thing is really well thought out. It has Hall effect joysticks, silent clicky buttons, both L1 and L2 triggers, which is crazy on a device this small. And it has those little controller grips that I thought were a little unnecessary at first, but then I tried it and I was like,
actually? That's it, bro. Right? Okay. I see what you mean now.
And they built this thing to basically be used with any case, any phone, any camera bump, so it's not an issue at all. And when you're done, you just slide the phone off and just put both in your pocket or bag or whatever else. Listen, if you're a nerd like me, you instantly see the potential here. And finally holding it in my hands, I had my exception set pretty high. So that's the pitch. So how did it actually feel? Well, I definitely see the vision for sure. As soon as I held it in my hands, I was like, okay, this feels familiar and comfortable. Awesome. This thing went through a pretty big iteration leap from Gen 1 to this new prototype. And I think it needs a little bit more tweaks for it to be perfect, because right now it's getting there, but not quite. First, the good things. I loved the joysticks on these. They don't feel like dumbed down in any way, like a Joy-Con or anything. If anything, it's just a touch too sensitive, but I instantly understood where my thumb should go and how to use them. I loved the transparent buttons and the D-pad. They told me that repairability was a really big part in creating this thing. So in the future, I would love to see other people create custom buttons and shells and whatnot. And the little fold-out grips, I really love how they're optional, so you can just put them away for less bulk. Okay, so now for the issues. And again, remember, this is just a prototype. They're still tweaking things. The springs are really tense. Like I gotta press down really, really hard to open the controller. And when it does, it just kind of like jumps out at you like really, really aggressively. I've been told that they're already tweaking that, so that's a really good start, because sometimes it did feel like it was really intense. It felt like it was gonna fall out of my hand. And the magnets, when slipping off, did feel a little bit hard to get a feel for. Like the guy told me that you're supposed to actually like slide it off instead of just slipping it off. But even then, it was kind of hard to get a feel for it because the magnets were really strong. I just hate the idea of someone like picking this up, getting all excited, trying to take it off, and then immediately getting frustrated. Like, am I doing this right? What am I missing? Why is it so hard to get this off? And it's like, no, you just need to slide it off a certain way. But again, prototype stuff, they still have time to fix all these things for sure. They already launched their Kickstarter, and as of writing this, they already reached over $1 million in funding, so super happy for them. They're planning to release this somewhere in Q3 of this year, and they already have pre-orders open for $99. And I really hope they can get these issues fixed by release. I actually personally already backed the Kickstarter by myself because, Josh, buddy, I genuinely think you're doing something amazing here, and I can't wait for the rest of the world to be able to hold this in their hands. There were so many other things that I did at CES, but this video would have been like 2 hours long. I'm gonna be releasing a video on my Patreon that's just me yapping about what the CES experience was like as a creator, including some things that I learned, since creators are actually treated a little bit differently there. It's really weird. Check that out in the description. Cheapest tier gets you access, since I wanted to be accessible to as many people as possible. Let me know which product caught your eye in the comments. I love seeing what seems to have the most attention from viewers. And thank you for watching.